like that. That's what I believe.
Okay. You know what? I just forgot to go live.
Oh, okay. Okay. Do you want me to start again, or Lisa?
Oh, sorry. Why don't you go ahead and uh, give a I am so sorry. I'm still new to this.
That's all
Um,
right.
so why don't you just go ahead and give a um a like a general overview of your beliefs, and then we'll go on from there. And I'll just leave you alone to do that.
Cool. Me personally, my beliefs, or do you want Quaker's beliefs?
Uh, Quakers first, then yours.
Okay. Quakers believe in a higher power. They derive from Christianity. They believe in economic and social equality. They also believe in welfare. They also believe in sustainability. They believe in they have the anti-war. They're pro LGBT. I agree with a lot of these things as well. Reason I am one. I'm probably more traditional in my beliefs than probably a lot of Quakers. If you were to sit down and ask them, I mean, traditional as in traditional Christian. In that, I believe in the resurrection and the miracle claims of Jesus and stuff like that. Is that enough data, or would you like more?
Um, and you said it's not an issue with the Quaker as to whether you're Trinitarian or Unitarian. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. That's what I said. No, no.
Okay. Um,
It's
and
not a salvation issue anyway.
okay, all right. And what about I know you said you were pro LGBTQ.
Mm-hmm.
Is that you personally, or is that Quakers in general, or
That's
both?
Quakers. That's Quakers in general. Well, both. Because Quakers in the US pulled against Prop 8 and stuff like that, and have been pro gay marriage and stuff like that. So they're very progressive in that sort of sense. And I'm pro that as well because I come from Manchester, which has a very large LGBT community in it. We have a gay village and stuff like that. And I've always been somebody who's always been about equality. If something's okay for one group to do, it should be okay for the other group. You know, there should be nobody treated differently based upon anything, in my opinion. Unless you're somebody who's spouting bigotry or hatred, and then yeah, there's a legit reason to treat you badly. But apart from that, I think that everyone should be treated equally.
Okay. And just so everybody knows, I was talking about Dr. Josh and Digital Hammurabi before, and I just did a thing on Sodom and Gomorrah. God did not destroy Sodom and Gomorrah because they were engaging in, um, what a lot of Christians say. They Sodom, God destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. You have to understand the culture, and if you don't understand the culture, you're not going to understand these things. And that's one of the things that I try to get across on my channel. You must understand the culture. But at any rate, I don't believe the story ever happened. But according to the story, if you read it in the context of the culture, God destroys Sodom and Gomorrah not because of the homosexuality, but because they uh, were not following the rules of hospitality. Now, Lot, you can say a lot about Lot, and what the he did with his daughters, and I'm being very careful with my words because I don't want to be demonetized, but most people know the story. So, you can be in judgment of Lot for, what he did with his daughters, all you want, and that's fine. I actually do not agree with it either. But the point is that Lot was following the rules of hospitality because um, those men, those angels, came under his roof. And once they came under his roof, the rules of hospitality in that day and age said, these people are your responsibility. So it was his basically duty to say, look, you can't do this, you know, but I do have my daughters, you know. So that's um, that is why, if you believe the story, which of course I don't, but if you believe the story, that is why God destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. And you're not going to understand these things unless you understand the culture in which they were written. And this is what I have against a lot of Christians. They don't bother to um, understand the culture of the ancient Jews. And when we're talking about this, okay, first of all, the Old Testament isn't even as ancient as people think it is. We're um, the first time that we ever hear of the Pentateuch in history, not in the Bible, but in history, is when uh, somebody comes to, I think it's Josiah, and says, "Hey, we found a book of the law," and apparently that was the Pentateuch. So, so we're talking about a long time after Moses supposedly lived, Abraham supposedly lived, everything like that. And we can prove that there were more, and I'll get into this in my channel. I just have a lot of things to do, a lot of things I want to cover, but there's Moses did not write the Pentateuch, first of all. There were a lot of uh, there are a lot of voices in the Pentateuch, and then you have what's called the redactionist. Now, the redactionist, we believe, for good reason, and I'll get to this later on my channel. For good reason, we believe that the redactionist is Ezra, but the redactionist does not actually have his own voice in the Bible, but he just redacts everything. So, we have, first of all, the Deuteronomist redacts uh, the Pentateuch, and then we have another redaction from Genesis to Second Kings, and then we have a third redaction from Ezra. So we have a bunch of redactions. So can you speak to that?
What, as in reductions in the Old Testament?
Yeah. Do you believe in? Do you think that all these redactions occurred, or do you think they didn't occur, or can you speak to? Do the Quakers believe that um, there are some things that maybe don't make sense?
Well, the thing is that there are differences within the text for different reasons. Again, sometimes they're preserved for different reasons. We don't. Again, and we need to know which is the correct reading, which again we try and use the best evidence for. So again, this is me personally. I don't want to speak for every Quaker. They may not take this because I did some study on it. That again, what we do is we try and get the best reading we can for it. Now, this whole redacting thing again, people take things out all the time when they think they've made a mistake and stuff like that. again, I don't think it's really that important unless there is a reason that we should think that that's an important thing that they took out for a particular reason. It could be for an error, it could be because a particular reading did make sense in that current culture. Again, there could be 1,000 different reasons for that particular reading to be taken out. We just need to look at the text itself and see, is there a reason that particular reading wasn't preserved and why? Instead of just going, well, that's redacted. No, there could be a legitimate reason, like, for example, a particular translation or a particular term had lost its meaning. Like, there's terms now that if I used them 20 years ago, or more than that, like 90 years ago or something like that, would have a different meaning than they do now, or terms that back there, that we don't really use anymore. And it could be the same for, especially an ancient language like Hebrew or like Greek or something. There's terms which have lost their initial meaning or mean something completely different, and therefore what you're trying to communicate may be lost because you're trying to update it for a more modern audience who doesn't use that term in that certain way anymore, or doesn't use that term at all. So basically, you're going to be speaking past them. So it could be not used for that matter. I mean, we've got to remember that English is a much younger language than Hebrew is. I mean, and already, in the space of 100 years, as I said, we've got terms now which not only have changed, but some terms that have fallen by the wayside and we don't use it anymore.
Okay, so basically I haven't gotten too much into this. I do know there's the Yahwist, the Elohist, the priestly source, the Deuteronomist, and the redactionist. And those are the voices, like, in the Old Testament, and like I said, the redactionist doesn't really have his own voice. He just redacts things, But the Deuteronomist also redacted things, but he also added things. So he's kind of like okay. Something's funky going on my
Yeah, that'll pop up. If, let's say, for example, somebody leaves a comment in your stream, it'll appear there. So if you want to highlight it or whatever, to maybe someone asks me a question or something like that, that's what appears up, you say.
Okay.
I don't believe anyone's in the chat as far as I know. But I would say this. I think that the thing I just gave is more likely that, again, it's somebody realizing that certain terms or certain words have either changed their meaning so it negates the point that the person's making, or has fallen out of parlance, and there's a more common term used now. As I said, I'm going to start using terms now that have akin to different meanings. Now, if I was to use, let's say, for example, I was to use the term gay, it used to start the century mean happy, but now it means homosexual, because that's right. the time that the gay community moves. Now, that's 100 years. Imagine what is 200 years, 300 years, how terms change and stuff like that. And so if you're writing anything, you've got to update it so that the new people know what you're talking about. As I said, people think Shakespearean prose is Old English. It isn't. It's language we're speaking today. It's just there's terms in there that we don't use anymore, like ye go to ye book or something like that, stuff like that. We don't use the word ye anymore, and stuff like that. So I think that we can even see from that I mean, that's what 500 no, more than that. That's centuries ago, and we see how language has progressed from those books, those plays being written to present. That that language has changed, how language has progressed, and that's a much younger language in English than than, as I said, in Hebrew. So I think that it's more likely that, as I've said before, that the language of Hebrew progressed and that they just changed it through that method. That the person who redacted it did it because it's like, nah, that they won't get that point.
Okay. So, yeah, there is something really funky going on with my computer. It says show hide, show hide, show hide, show hide. I have no idea what's going on.
It could be just an error. Yeah, just leave it down there. It's fine.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure this out. Like I said, I think this thing is messing up, and
Mm-hmm.
since this is my only my second time using it, I really have no idea how on earth to fix it.
Mm-hmm.
So please bear with me.
Go ahead.
Go ahead and talk about whatever you want to talk about.
Uh, well, I was going to apologise for Sunflower's behaviour yesterday. I don't think it was helpful to discussing the issues you were talking about. So,
Well, it's fine. It it's no big deal. You know, I I'm used to that kind of thing, but at any rate, I I just got tired of Leo talking over me.
mm.
you know, um and I like a good dumpster fire just like the other person, but dumpster fires isn't what I do here, you know. So what about science? Do you like what about do you like talking anything about science? Like, you know, any science. It doesn't have to be evolution or the Big Bang or anything, just anything scientific. Do you like talking science?
I don't like talking about subjects I'm not really familiar with or really can give an adequate representation of. So, because I'm not a scientist, I don't claim to be one. Um, I think that you should only talk about subjects that you can represent in a pretty educated way that you've at least researched on. Now, again, I've read a couple of science books, and I mean pop science books. I don't mean actual science books. Like I've read Kaku's stuff, and I've read Dawkins stuff, and I've read Ken Miller's stuff. And again, but again, I would not claim to be any sort of expert. But I do like reading about that stuff because again, it is interesting. But again, the thing is that sometimes I find it hard to comprehend because again, I'm an English grad, so I'm much more familiar with how to study text and stuff like that. That's basically what I've been trained for. So, well, again, I do like listen to the arguments about creations of these and ID these evolution, because again, it's something that I am interested in because, as I said, it comes across to me that again it's more of a religious based argument than it is anything about facts. Because again, like if evolution was as disprovable as they said it'd be disproven years ago. So, but again, as I said, I do find it interesting because again, my high school education was so poor. I find that I get like basically university quality education for free. From people who've with PT Myers, he teaches it at a university level. You listen to somebody like Erica speaks. She's very nice and she can explain it to the layman. Thunderfoot, before he went mental, used to do the same sort of thing. Could make it understandable to the layman, and I think that is the key with any sort. When you're talking do pop science, that's what you have to have the skill to do, and I think it's something that I do listen to. But again, me myself, I don't feel comfortable talking about it because again, it's not my skill. Again, I do. If people want to discuss, how do you think God exists and stuff like that, I can give my position, my opinion, but it'll be based upon my, thoughts and science, which may be, based upon, false assumptions or whatever. So again, and the thing is that it would be fair for you to represent it. There you go.
Well, that's fair. I just, when I first started looking into this, my pastors were like, "Oh, don't go looking into this. Don't go looking into this." That's really not a good way to go about it because um, I don't know about other people, but I'm like, wait a minute, is there something you don't want me to know? Like, maybe this is actually true, you know? And then my other feeling on the matter was, you know what? If this is true, if Christianity is true, then it doesn't have anything to worry about from other people saying, this isn't true and blah blah blah. Hi, Mr. Shadow Kitty. Um, because if it's true, it's gonna stand. Do you know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean. As I said, but the thing is with me, nobody's ever told me that I can't look into specific things. Again, as I used to be an atheist myself, so again, like the idea that nobody tells me what I can and cannot look into. I look into everything, with as much try and get as much information as I can from as accurate sources as I can. Um, may I make mistakes? Sure, I'm a human being. We all make mistakes. We all make errors, and I think that's a key thing is to take your you know around the thing is that you always got to be open to being corrected, and people show you, well, you're wrong about that because here's thing X which disproves you. And the thing is, because I'm a pretty stubborn guy, sometimes that can get in the way of, like, trusting what people say and do. Again, because again, most people, when they represent something, that's what they honestly believe the facts show, or that's what honestly they'd be convinced of. Now you've got to show that fiction is being based upon false assumptions or false data. But you've got to do it in a respectful way and not be, confrontation about it.
Okay, I'm gonna ask you something, and if you're not comfortable with
You
any
can't speak
questions,
anything.
yeah, if you're not comfortable with any questions I ask, just say I don't want to talk about it.
No, I'll give you an honest answer.
What do you think about people like Kent Hovind?
I'll try and clean it up. I think he's a scumbag because what he does is he presents himself as some scientific authority, but he isn't. So he's dishonest. And again, one thing that I dislike above anything is dishonesty. Look, you can be incorrect about something. That doesn't make you dishonest. But when you're literally saying, "I am a science teacher," and he wasn't, or I've taught science, which he hadn't. And then but again, it goes to levels for me because again, like as I said, Kent Hovind, I'm sure he's a nice guy. I'm sure he is. Again, I try to see the best in everybody, so I'm sure he's a nice guy. I'm sure he does have positives about him. I just don't know what those things are, but I'm sure like he's maybe a good dad to his kids and stuff like that, and like maybe he cares about people around him. I don't know. All I do know is that again he presents himself to be something that he's not, and that's
Well,
my big.
um, he actually brags that he beat his kid. He beat Eric. No wonder Eric doesn't want anything to do with him. He actually brags that he beat the kid on more than one occasion. So no, I don't agree with you that he's a nice guy. He's horrible.
No, but as I said, I try to see the best in everybody. It's just something I try and do because I have this personal belief that everybody's good. Everybody has goodness in them. Now, maybe it's a false belief, but it's just something that I personally believe.
Well, I believe people are born good, but sometimes I think, and this may or may not be true, but somewhere along the line, I think people suppress, not everybody, of course, but some people actively suppress that goodness to the point where there is no more goodness in them, if that makes sense. Does that make sense? Uh, no, no, Beach. Do you have any questions for Gary?
No, that absolutely makes sense. Just answering Beach, I am a Quaker at the moment. At the current moment, just me and Lisa are talking about our different points of view and different things, and that's fine. She's just asking me about what my opinion can over this. I mean, as I said, like again, there are certain people who I dislike. Um, like for example, I dislike Benny Hinn and people pop off because they're scam artists. I dislike that people use religion to try and make money off it. That's basically, I hate that. And I hate it when people use it to try and spread hate about certain groups, whether it be gay people or black people or Muslim people or whatever people they are. If they use whatever religious position they have to spread hate, I'm going to be against that. So,
Okay, getting Beach wants to know more about Quakers. Do you use musical instruments in your worship? I know there are certain Christian sects that do not.
the one I go to does. We use guitars and drums and stuff like that. So I would say it's almost like a rock band, but I'd say it's more like not like a Christian rock band, but I say like but folky rock, Christian folky rock. There you go. Do women have special clothes a common dress? Not necessarily. You could go with jeans, and then we never tell women that they have to dress a certain way. We're not like the Catholic Church where you have to cover where we would have to cover their face and stuff like that. We're nothing like that.
You mean like a hijab?
No. It's not a hijab. They have to wear like a head scarf.
Oh, okay. Like the Puritans, maybe.
No. This is Catholic practice that women have to cover their head because they have to be pure beyond because they're going to worship. Again, it's like a lot of blokes tend to wear hats and stuff like that.
Okay. And do you do the practice of men on one side, women on the other?
No, it's mixed. It's mixed.
Okay. Okay. Like I said, I don't know much about Quakers, so this is a whole new ballgame for me. Um, there are some Christian sects that do have women on one side and men on the other.
Yeah, they do. Yeah. This because I have a Assembly of God church not that far from me, and I've been to that once, and they do that.
Really, Assembly of God does that. Wow, I did
Yeah.
not
Well,
know that.
the last time I went to it, they did, which was a while ago. So they could have changed their practices, and if I'm wrong, guys, I do apologize.
Yeah. By the way, I need to let you know that you're probably seeing meltdowns in England from all of these people like Kenneth Copeland and you know Paula White and all of these. Uh, Listen, that's a small percentage of Americans. Most Americans are not that crazy.
Oh, trust me, I know.
Most of us are just like most of us when we saw that we were like, "Are you kidding me?"
Trust me. Like as I said, with who we have as prime minister at the moment, trust me, we're in the place to judge. So trust me on that. With who's in our government at the moment, Beach. Uh, no, not as far as I know. That's the rule thing. Again, I've never been told that I can't drink or eat certain things. We do sustainability, but I don't think that's necessarily a dietary requirement. I mean, I may be wrong on the stuff that has been said that I've not been made privy to, so I don't want to say, oh, Gary's got that wrong. They have to eat this. But as far as I've been told, no.
So you're allowed to drink like beer and whiskey and stuff like that?
Yeah, yeah. But I think again, what we're more concerned with, as I said before, is about social justice, economic justice, and stuff like that. I don't think that's promoted by us not drinking certain things. As I said, me personally, as I said, so yeah. So if everyone's got do you have any particular questions for me, Lisa? It's not a church; it's a meeting house.
Yeah, let me get that up here.
Oh, sorry. I'm just responding as a compare.
No, that's okay. I just want people to see what you're responding to. So
Right. Yeah,
you call it a meeting house, right?
It's a meeting house. Yeah.
Okay. So how much time do you spend on Sundays there?
I usually spend about 2 or 3 hours there.
Okay. Do you have anything during the week?
We do, but unfortunately, because I work, I can't really go to it.
Okay. So they're not really like you have to come to all our meetings.
No. It's open to everybody. So if you want to come, even if you're an atheist, you can come. They don't necessarily care. But as I said, before the Quakerism, I was Unitarian, which is even more open-minded, to the point that if I was to go into what they taught, you'd be surprised. Because it wasn't all. It actually, some of it was religiously based. Like they'd take a certain part of the Bible and stuff like that, but they'd also take like a poem by Keats or something, and a writing by Socrates and stuff like that, and they go forward with that. So again,
walk us through your meetings. What happens first, and then second and third, and so on?
Usually, when I've been, usually it's. I mean, this could differ. So again, don't this being universal, but usually the welcome us to come in. There's a progression of service like there is in every church, any religious service, and then we just have tea and biscuits and talk about stuff. So they'll talk about like maybe there's something going in the community. Like unfortunately, because of Corona, we've not been able to meet recently. So this is like from about a couple of years ago. But sometimes, actually, recently, I've actually not been going to that particular meeting house. I've actually, and this is probably going to get on your bad side, been going to Catholic church recently.
Okay. Well, with the coronavirus, have they been doing Zoom meetings or something?
They have. As I said, because I've been at work or I've been busy, I haven't really been going as much as I should be.
Okay, but that's fine. I was just thinking maybe, do they have something,
yeah, but as I said, because because the nearest one to me is Manchester. Actually, there's one in Eccles, but that's a bit of a hassle to get the car there and stuff like that. I usually go to the Catholic church because that's literally like up the road from me, so I go to the Catholic church there. So I usually go to Catholic. Yeah, a Quaker goes to Catholic church. A lot of people will do that. Actually, a lot of Christians will go to a different denomination for their particular religious service because it's easier that way. As I said, I actually like going to Catholic church. It's actually pretty cool.
Yeah, I've actually been to a few Catholic services. They're like an hour long. And I just that I thought they were weird, but it's just what you're used to.
No,
I wasn't used to a Catholic service, and so when you're not used to that kind of a format, it's kind of like weird. You know what I mean? But go.
No, I understand. But as I said, with me, as I said, it's uh, just wait, I'm just reading this again. Sorry. Um, yeah, my contemplation is something like in Unitarianism, because I used to go to those services a lot. A lot of it is about meditation, breathing, and stuff like that. And then we go upstairs to have some tea and biscuits, or coffee and biscuits, if it were. Actually, it was pretty chill. There wasn't really forcing any particular faith on anybody. As I said, the only reason I left is because I didn't feel fulfilled. Like it was the sort of I wanted to be more traditionally Christian than Unitarianism is. So that's the reason I left, because I wanted more traditional Christianity, because that's what I particularly believed in. And I think I was being disingenuous to myself. I wasn't being honest to myself, which is the thing that you have to be. You have to be honest and true to yourself, rather than try and do, well, this is what certain person X is going to think. I think you have to be true to yourself.
Oh yeah, totally. Me too.
As, but yeah, so I do think that again, I try not to be judgmental of anybody else, because I had my own journey to where my position is now.
Yeah, I try not to be judgmental either. Sometimes I don't. I don't like. Sometimes I'm not too good at it. Sometimes I do judge others, but I try not to. And with my training in mental health counseling, I'm pretty, I'm better at it than I used to be. Like I said, because of my training in mental health counseling, because you you obviously they train you not to be judgmental or anything like that. So yeah. But anyway, so is there anything else that you want to tell us about the Quakers that I haven't asked?
Well, as I said, me personally, I believe in the miracle claims of Jesus. So if you want to discuss that, that's fine. But that's not necessarily appeals to every Quaker again, and I don't want to start saying here that it is, because it may not be. Because again, the only thing that we connects us is that we believe in a higher power. A god of whatever description you want to say, even if you want to say the Aristotle idea of a prime mover, or the Neoplatonist idea of the prime mover.
Okay. Um, well, I think my position. I think that there was a Yeshua. I mean, that was a very common name back then,
Mm-hmm.
and they there were probably a lot of Yeshuas that were preachers back then, and a lot of them probably were crucified. I don't have a problem saying that. But what I have a problem with is, you know, the Jesus of the Bible. Now, you say that you believe in the miracles and all of that, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you believe like the virgin birth and all that.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Sorry.
Okay, no, it's fine. So, all right. Do um, do you believe, you personally, not the Quakers, but have you ever read the Apocrypha?
I've read the Apocrypha. I've read some of it. Yeah.
Okay. Do you believe that's the word of God or no?
What do you mean, like the Revelation in St. John and stuff like that? You mean that Apocrypha, or do you mean like the Gnostic Gospels?
I'm talking about like like everything, like the four extra books that the Catholics have that the Protestants don't, and then the Gnostic Gospels on top of that. I'm talking about the entire Apocrypha, the stuff that we do not have that even the Catholics don't have in their Bible. I mean, yes, they do have 4 more books in their Bible that the Protestants don't, but above and beyond that, um, even in the 1800s, I just found this out. In the 1800s, there were a lot of books that were taken out of the Bible. So I'm assuming that even the KJV had those books in it if they were taken out as late as the 1800s. So
Mhm.
I'm just wondering, do you think that the Bible that we have today is the Bible that God, and like I said, it doesn't really matter to me because I don't believe in the God of the Bible, but you do. So I'm asking you, do you believe that the Bible as it stands, as we have it right now, is the Bible that God intended us to have, or do you think that man somehow um, destroyed part of it?
Okay, I'll answer it, but BG's asking me questions in the side chat, which I'll happily get to in a minute. But I'll deal with your question first. I think that the Desalon that we have now is as close as I think we're going to get to the quote unquote originals, if you want to say originals. And I think that that's as close as we're going to get. And again, unless we by some miraculous thing, uncover like a preserved original copy of the New Testament or compiled, then I think this is the closest we're ever going to get. Because that co-ops both traditions together and deals with why the Gospels aren't added to the Bible for different factual reasons. Um, so, as I said, um, so hopefully that answers your question because again, like we go by what the facts are. The facts are that there are books that are in both, and there's a particular reading that exists, and there's reasons that we have those particular ones. So, I think we're arriving now, at a closer accumulation of the two. But again, like as I said, I think that they could find one, but I think we're getting as close as we're ever going to get to it, in my personal opinion. But again, I could be wrong.
No, no, that's fine. Um, so do you think then that the Apocrypha is the Word of God or not?
I don't think the Gospels are. No.
Okay, what about most of the New Testament? Because it's been proven that some of the quote unquote letters of Paul are forgeries. So do you think we should like get a new Bible where the known forgeries are thrown out?
As I said, the suggestion is that they're poetries, but I think that there's still heavy debate about it far as I understand. Uh, like people say that, for example, that people think that certain books that Paul wrote are actually written by Paul. Though there are arguments the other way saying that he did write them. So again, I don't think we should really what's the word promote one, but I do think if we find out that it's for sure a not written by Paul, then yeah, it should be removed because then it has no reasonable basis to be in there, in my opinion.
Okay, can you address Beege's question?
Yeah, sure. Do you think you prefer rules and rituals something more ordered? I think so. Because I'm somebody who prefer well not rules and rituals per se, but I prefer something more. I don't know, I'm trying to think of the word more traditional because again that's just me because again I found myself drawn to that. It's not necessarily I like rituals, though I do like rituals in general. But again there are tons of rituals that we do every day that we don't even think about. So um but again I do like it because again I'm maybe it's just maybe I'm an old soul, but I do like tradition. I do like people doing things that were done 1,000 years ago because you feel connected to tradition. So Christianity's been going on for 2,000 years. I feel very blessed that I'm doing the same thing that people are doing, who have been hunted, being persecuted, and I can do it freely and openly and not be told by somebody that I'm wrong for doing it. And I think that's what we should all be. We should all be free to express what we think is right without somebody coming around and saying you're an idiot or you're bad and stuff like that. Because I don't agree with that. Hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, I mean, when I was talking to Tangelo, I asked him what his reason for believing in God was, and he said, my experience. And I said, that's fine. I don't have a I don't have any problem with you believing in God from your experience. What I have a problem with is people trying to prove God through science, because technically you can't prove anything through science. So it doesn't make any sense to me that people like Kent Hovind and Ken Ham and Jason Lyle and all those people. It just doesn't make any sense to me that they're trying to use science to prove God when, first of all, you can't use science to prove anything. Like I said, that's just, you can disprove stuff, but you can't prove anything through science. And second of all, even if you could prove something through science, you certainly can't prove God through science, because according to them, God is above all. So it just doesn't make any sense to me. What do you think about that?
I think I think that one can infer it, but as a sort of proof, unless you talk about maths, you don't really have proof in that sort of sense. Because again, there are certain things where there's a crossover, like for example, the laws of thermodynamics are applied mathematics, so that is a proof. That is scientific. So there are exceptions, but they're very few and far between. Again, I'm not necessarily in favor of people trying to prove God through science or trying to say that they have ultimate proof, because again, because it's subjective. Because again, if you and I were to look at the same objects, like we'll say, for example, we're going to now discuss the what's that in the universe. You might have a totally different theory to me, based upon what you've read and what you've studied and whatever. Does that make you right and me wrong? No. Does that make me right and you wrong? No. But it is that we have different studies and different theories we've hitched our wagon to. And I think that's what, if a Christian says, right, I think that this theory here promotes the idea that God created the universe. Like, for example, I believe that string theory, this is me personally, I'm not saying that this is universal, I'm just saying for me personally, is a very strong inference that a creator did create it. Now, somebody else can say, well, I don't believe that. I believe in a unifying theory, or I believe in that it is an external universe. Again, if someone wants to say that, I don't agree with them, but that's fine. They can have that opinion. As long as they post it in it is my opinion of that blah is true. Is when they start going into, no, this is something, and this is something that everyone has to believe. It's like, nah, damn it. Because the thing is that just because you interpret it that way doesn't mean that that's the way it should be interpreted, unless it's something that we can actually draw out and then study and know that that's more likely to be the truth than not.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I like I said, if you tell me you believe in God because of your experience, that's fine. I can't say yay or nay to your experience. That is your experience. Um, as for me, I have experienced God, yes. Um, but I am an agnostic atheist. And that's mainly because I have temporal lobe epilepsy, which
Mhm.
is known to give God visions, for lack of a better term. And so if I don't know the difference between this is a God vision because of my epilepsy and this is a God vision because of God vision, or whatever, why would I believe? Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I mean, as I said, the reason I believe, well, one of the reasons I believe, is because of my own personal background. Because I'm dyspraxic, and a lot of people from the secular community were telling me that I can't do something. Now, that's the one big way to get on my really bad side. If you want to see my real background, tell me I can't do something and watch what happens. I'll go up my way to prove that I can. And as I said, that annoyed me. So again, I have very what's the word fractious relationship with the secular science community because of that. And again, like, and plus, he wasn't helped by the fact that when I tried to do the old atheist thing, because I've always been trying to look for people that I can get along with. They always say, they said in one breath, LGBT people, we should support them, we should love them. I was like, yeah, absolutely, 100%. And then in the next breath, they go, but we hate religious people. I was like, yeah, I kind of not agree with that, and that's what basically caused me to start questioning. Because again, that's to me, that's hypocrisy. You can't say that you love a bunch of people, then but love a different bunch of that you hate a different bunch of people. It doesn't work that way. It's hypocritical. Why not love everyone equally until they've proven to you that they're not worthy of that? I'm sorry, I just find it I found it hypocritical. I still find it hypocritical today. And the thing is that that's what caused me to start my journey to belief was that again, if I can prove people wrong, and this is the thought that said it, and again, I'm nobody special. I don't claim to be anybody special. Then what else can science be wrong about, or what else can it be? What's the word? Saying that he knows all the facts, but he doesn't know all the facts yet about, and that's what started me, on this journey. And I'm glad that he did that because again, it's made me go to other people with similar who've been told similar things. They can do it. If I can do it, they can do it.
Oh, yeah, totally. But that's just human. If you tell people don't go to this source, what's the first source they're going to go to? They're going to go to the source that you told them not to go to. That is just human nature. That's just basic psychology. Um, you know, uh, but anyway, I think that's about it. Thank you for coming on, Gary. I really appreciate you taking time out of your day. Before you go, though, I want to ask the chat, do you have any more questions for Gary?
Yeah, I'll say whatever you got. I know Beach Price was answering me a lot of questions. So if you got any more questions, Beach, I'm here for you.
I don't think they have any more questions for you, Gary.
I
Uh,
don't think. So I was going to say she, but again, I don't want to presume, especially nowadays.
yeah. So, anyway, thank you so much for your time and to explain Quakerism to us. Um, Now, I do have one more question for you.
Go
Um,
ahead.
have you heard of the Shakers?
Yes, I have.
Okay, are they any relation to the Quakers?
I think they're a offshoot, but I could be wrong about that.
Okay, all right. I was just wondering because they do sound so similar. I do know they died out because they believed in celibacy and all that, and they tried adopting children, and that didn't work out. So anyway,
Okay.
so thank you very much for coming on, answering questions, and I really enjoyed this. We're gonna have to do it again sometime.
Cool.
Alrighty, see you later.
I think that's it.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and stay in here until you leave.
All right, I'll leave.
So anyway, yeah, so that was Gary, known as Phony Beetle Maniacs in the that's his username. If you see his comments in my chat. So anyway, I will see you guys later. Bye.